Hi, everyone. It's the Movie Night Society once again. We're talking about Rocky 3. Uh, I think this is one we've both seen before, right?
Yes, I had seen this one other time before.
Okay. Uh, yeah. So we're talking about all the Rocky films. We're going in order, of course, and we're at Rocky 3 now. This was from 82, I believe, like a few years after 2.
Yeah, 82.
Um,
The 80s
and
now, baby.
yeah, and it really just immediately jumps into the 80s. Like this
That it
movie is
does.
really 80s. Uh in kind of a good way and kind of a bad way, I guess, if depends on your perspective.
I think in
Um
a good way for me.
okay. Well, I don't know. We'll talk about it. We're going to spoil the movie obviously, and we're going to obviously spoil the first two movies. So if you haven't watched them, uh go watch them. Uh yeah, I don't know. So where should we start with this movie? I guess just like basic plot. Uh, it picks off a few years after the second one. Rocky is now the heavyweight champion uh, of the world, I guess. Yeah, the world, right?
Yeah, heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah, and he's still doing fights, uh, all here and there, but and keeping the title.
Yeah, I think
But
he
then
has
there's this
10 title defenses by the time this movie starts. He just does his 10th one.
something, yeah, and but there's a challenger who is rising up in the ranks, named Clever Lang, played by good old Mr.
Mr. T.
T. Yeah, and I think it's his first film role, I believe.
Was this really his first one?
I
I
think
think
so.
it's
I think
definitely
it's
one of his
also
earliest ones. Is that his
I
first
wanna
one?
say it's also Hulk Hogan's first film role,
Mm.
but I'm not sure. Uh, but yeah, so, Clever Lang is, like, kind of rising up in the ranks, and he wants to become the heavyweight champion of the world, by beating Rocky. Uh, Rocky's fame and ego has gone to his head, like, a little bit, uh, and I guess there's kind of a I guess this movie is mostly about Rocky kind of being humbled again. He's, like, at the very top, of his career, and spoilers, Clubber Lang ends up beating him in a fight, and then Rocky has to, uh, train and, win back his,
Like,
title. Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of like the main plot of the movie.
Yeah, and there's, like, details here and there with certain characters that we'll talk about. Um, yeah, I don't know. You seem to like this one quite a
I
bit.
really like Rocky 3. I liked it a lot the first time I watched it, and I liked it a lot this time too. I think it's just a fun movie, and I think it's paced better than the second one. You know how we talked about the second one kind of meanders a bit until like maybe half the movie, and then like the last third kind of goes on pause for a little bit because what happens with Adrian and everything. So I don't feel like there's any like really slow points in this movie for me. You could argue like the whole thing with Hulk Hogan, you could basically cut that and not really miss much, but
Yeah.
I really like that whole scene with Hulk Hogan. It's so much fun. Um they're both it just like he's so over the top, and there's just like some legitimately funny moments. Like one thing that comes to mind, I don't know why I love this so much, but when Hulk Hogan is lifting Rocky and he's about to throw him out of the ring, like Rocky just yells like "Catch me!" to the crowd. I don't know why that makes me laugh every time. Just it's really this really quick like "Catch me!" Yeah. So even though you could take that whole thing out, it's a lot of fun. Because that's really what I feel like when I watch this movie. I have a lot of fun watching it. I don't know about you, but it's a very I kind of want to say it's definitely a little bit more goofy, lighthearted than the other two, but there's still like some pretty like sad scenes and some serious scenes in the movie, but it definitely feels like it has a little bit more of a lighthearted tone to me. I don't know if, like, would you
Yeah,
agree?
it definitely has more of a, I don't know, kind of a, yeah, over the top kind of cartoony
Yeah,
kind of feel.
definitely. Especially, I could see that being a little bit jarring coming from the first two, because it is a bit of like kind of that tonal shift there, where the first two were felt like pretty grounded, pretty serious for the most part, whereas this one, like you said, kind of like more over the top. So I could see why people maybe would not like that. But even though obviously the first one's the best one, I still think this one does like a pretty good job at what it tries to do, at least for me.
I like certain parts of this movie a lot. Uh, but I don't know. There's something about, maybe it's just because the first two movies are like really grounded.
Yeah.
They feel very like character driven. And this one kind of feels like it just shifts right into like kind of, I don't know, almost like Rocky is like a myth now, like he's like a legend.
Hmm.
It doesn't really treat him as a character anymore. Uh I think that's like the thing that I'm mixed on with this movie. I don't know whether I like, you know, I think I really just have to separate the first two movies from this one because it does feel so different to me.
Mm.
Uh I guess like I I don't know. I do appreciate that it didn't go from like Rocky 2 straight into like Rocky 4, cuz Rocky
Mhm.
4 is just like all over the top, and it's just like, I don't
Yeah.
know, there's like barely any dramatic beats I remember from that movie.
I actually,
Uh
I recently watched Rocky 4 for the first time.
oh, okay.
I did, but I especially like after watching this one, I just like I hadn't seen Rocky 4 yet, and that's probably like one of the most talked about ones. So I went ahead and watched that. Um,
Okay.
but I'm not going to say really anything about that yet, since we'll do that with our Rocky 4 review. But yeah, that one is definitely also very over the top. But I don't want to say anything more about 4. We'll talk about 4 because I definitely have some thoughts about 4.
Yeah, I mean like I'll try to talk about this one without talking about Rocky 4, but just like I do like that the series kind of transitions in tone a little bit to that,
Hmm.
rather than it just feeling straight away like it goes into that. But I don't know, it also does kind of feel like that because you got the whole Hulk Hogan scene, and it's like super over the top. It's enjoyable, but like at the same time, the way the movie begins, it just feels like a sensory overload of just
Hmm.
like, here's all the Rocky shit that's going on. Here's all the Rocky memorabilia, and look how famous he is. And
Yeah,
it's, you know,
I think if you
it's
were to
got the Eye of
do,
the Tiger
yeah,
playing,
I
which is
think
an awesome song.
I think that stuff was kind of like, if you're going to continue Rocky's story, that'd be hard to avoid in a sense, since he is like the champion at this point, and he's been the champion for like a couple years. And I
Yeah,
don't know if like this much merchandise would be out for a boxer, but um, I definitely
it's
think,
it's definitely just Rocky merchandise,
yeah,
like for the movies, you know,
pretty much, yeah.
like
But yeah, it's like when someone's like a really big sports celebrity icon, like you get like a lot of merchandise and stuff like that. So I, it's definitely like over the top, but it's like, if he's like this big superstar champion, it's like I don't really have a problem with it.
yeah, it makes sense story wise.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about the execution of it because I almost feel like this movie should have been, I don't know. This is a weird comparison, but I almost feel like it should have been like Avengers Infinity War, where it focused on like Clubber Lang
Mm.
first
Hmm.
and then kind of like transitioned to more about Rocky or something.
Yeah.
Because like it is like, okay, Rocky is this like legend, not like, you know, he's the heavyweight champion of the world. It'd be interesting to start it from like a more grounded perspective But Clubber Lang is like also just so over the
He's
top
so
right
over the
from the
top. Yeah,
get-go.
Mr. T is very over the top in the role.
Yeah, he
And yeah,
doesn't
they
feel like a character to me.
no, he's very cartoonish with like
Yeah.
how kind of aggressive and over the top he could be, which um yeah, I mean they could have kind of toned that down a bit for sure, but what we got I still think is pretty fun. He still ends up being like a pretty memorable character with some pretty fun lines for me at least.
Oh yeah, he's a fun character. I
So,
like as much as I'm like gonna sound like I'm like shitting on the tone, I do enjoy the silly moments in the Rocky films.
yeah, I
Um,
just like I said, it's definitely I can see how good this would be. It is very jarring,
yeah,
just to
I
go from
think
like the
that's
first two tones to this one. Um, so I can see why anybody would have like a problem with that. I think I'd have more like it doesn't like bother me as much because I have so much fun with this movie. So and being such a big fan of the first two, it's like I would think I'd be more annoyed because I know there's been other things that have like tonal shifts after its sequels, and it's like it rubs me the wrong way. But I just don't get upset with Rocky 3 for it for whatever reason. I don't know why. I guess because I just enjoy the movie for what it is.
yeah, this one I don't know, I was like looking at IMDb trivia and it said like this is considered a fan favorite. Although I guess kind of all of them probably are. Um, like I enjoy all the Rocky films, even 5, but again, we'll get to that
Yeah,
one.
I still
And
haven't seen
maybe I won't
5.
like it. Who knows? Um, it is kind of interesting to me how like I feel like the first 2 movies fit really well together, and then 3 and 4 fit really well together because they are more over the top and they kind of like create these new villains that are sort of like very not in a bad way, but just like very one note. Like it's not like the first 2 films.
No,
Uh,
no, they don't really
and
feel like characters, especially like compared to Creed.
yeah, and like especially Ivan Drago, like,
Oh
but we'll
yeah,
get to that.
we'll
Uh,
get to Rocky 4.
and then like 5 and Rocky Balboa kind of feel like they try to ground the series again, even if it is still kind of odd in Rocky 5. Again, we'll get to that. But yeah, it's like these films are kind of like done in like duologies tonally,
Hmm.
and that's kind of fun. Um, yeah, stuff I like about the movie, obviously the song "Eye of the Tiger," which
I
was
mean,
written for
great
this
song.
movie, which I
Yes, it
didn't know
was.
as a kid. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, I would
it's
think.
like, I mean, like you didn't, we didn't grow up in the '80s, so
No,
like we wouldn't have known. But it's like this, "Eye of the Tiger" was like nominated for Best Original Song at the Oscars, which is crazy to me.
it is pretty
Like
crazy.
it's a great
It
song.
is. It's classic. I mean, who doesn't like Eye of the Tiger? If you
Yeah.
don't like Eye of the Tiger, it's like you probably. I don't want to know about your music taste. So,
I read on the IMDb trivia that and I think Sylvester Stallone might have said this in like the making of the Rocky 4 recut documentary that's on YouTube, which I still recommend seeing because I haven't even seen that cut yet, but it was interesting just to hear like Stallone talk about the series in retrospective. But I think he said like he asked Survivor to do like make 2 songs and then pick one, something like
hmm.
that. And I think the other song that they made for the movie, which they didn't end up using for this movie, but
I think it was
it,
using
it's
Karate Kid, right?
yeah, it's "You're the Best Around," because I think that there's a line of dialogue in Rocky 3 where he says like "You're the best," something like that.
Mhm.
Which is common, but it's like knowing that that song might have been in Rocky 3 is kind of fun. Uh, yeah, and then okay, I really enjoy all the scenes with like Rocky and Mickey in this, especially like considering that again, spoilers, we're spoiling everything. That Mickey dies in this movie, and it's
Mhm.
a very sad scene. Like
Yeah,
that really crushed me the first time seeing it. Uh,
yeah. Especially you grew to really love Mickey over the first two, and then there are like some hints and foreshadowing that he has health problems, but you don't think he's gonna probably like die, especially like the moment he does die in the movie. It just seems
yeah,
like it happens so quick. You don't really have time to process it almost.
yeah, and it's like Rocky doesn't either.
Yeah, and it's a big reason why he probably ends up losing the first match against Clubber Lang is because he's so worried about Mick. And yeah, like right after the match, he has to he pretty much lies to Mick.
Yeah.
Like he tells him that he won when he lost. And it's like he could probably debate like if Mick believed him or not. But that's pretty much when he dies, and he tells Rocky that he loves him. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just
Which is very sweet.
yeah. I even Paulie cries when Mick dies. If you see
Yeah.
Paulie, that shot of Paulie, and it's like, man, even Paulie's crying. So yeah, and Sylvester Stallone does a really, really good job in that scene.
Yeah. I
Very
like
believable, like
forgot.
wailing cry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's great in this. Yeah, it's like I did read that this was supposed to be like the last Rocky film. That was like Stallone's kind of plan. And then it did really well, and then it kept going. So I can kind of see why he did that with Mickey in this one.
Yeah, I think if this had
Um,
been the last Rocky movie, the tonal shift would have probably bothered me more.
yeah,
I think
I
if it had been
think
the last one,
yeah.
because just obviously in
Um,
hindsight, I know okay, there's 6 movies. The third one's not the last one. But if it had been, I think I'd be a little bit more mixed.
yeah, I feel like if I saw this like when it came out at the time, I would have been like, "What is this?" I would have been like
Yeah,
really
it's like
um
the second one would have felt like a better place to end it than the third.
yeah. Um
Yeah, on
I
the
the
hindsight,
and the one thing I really do love about this movie, like story-wise, I love what they do with Apollo here. I
Yeah, that was such a surprise to me watching it. I liked seeing Apollo back. He commentated on the fight between him and Rocky and Clubber Lang, and it's like, oh, okay, Apollo's in here because I knew a couple things about the movies going in, but not a whole lot. So I had no idea that Apollo was even in this movie. So when he showed up, I was very pleasantly surprised. And then the fact that he takes up training Rocky after Mick dies, and we get to see like the friendship between Creed and Rocky is definitely like one of the highlights of the movie. Uh, really, like I liked Apollo in the first two, but like I think the third one really cemented him as like my second favorite character probably in these
Yeah, I
movies.
thought the same exact thing. Like he's my second favorite character at this moment.
Yeah, so
Uh
I love what they did with Rocky and Creed's like friendship and relationship in this movie.
yeah,
Fantastic.
and it's just like a good arc
Yeah.
too. Like Rocky starts at the bottom and Apollo's at the top, and then they kind of like almost like meet in the middle in a
Hmm.
way. Even though like Rocky's still the champ, but it's like they kind of see eye to eye at this moment, and it's really fun. Like Carl Weathers is like really good as Apollo here. I think it like I mean even in the first two, like he definitely had character, but he wasn't like there a ton.
Yeah.
Here it's like really nice to see him. There's like that line that I think Duke Apollo's like trainer or manager kind of says like, "Oh, it's good to be training with you against instead of training against you."
Hmm.
I don't know. That's like a trope I really like in stories when like the villain and the hero kind of have to team up in some
Yeah.
way. That's
Yeah.
always like fun.
Those are always usually fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I love what they did with Apollo here. The ending is great. Uh yeah, I don't know. It's like yeah, I think my problems really are more tonal like
Yeah. I think that's
problems, but
justifiable though. Like I said, I don't think it bothers me as much just knowing like, okay, this isn't where this ends. So I just doesn't bother me as much. But yeah, if it ended here, like I said, I think it would bother me more.
I
But I
think it
think
bothers me a little bit just because I do kind of feel like, oh, if they made like Clubber Lang more of a character or
yeah,
something,
if they probably
I
grounded this
think I
more like the first two,
yeah,
it probably would have been better. But I
because I
still
like the
really like it.
idea.
Yeah.
I like the
This
idea of like someone comes in and takes the shot from Rocky and becomes the new heavyweight champion. Like that's a neat idea, but yeah, he's not really like a character. He feels more like a Saturday morning cartoon villain
oh
or like a
yeah.
villain of the week kind of.
Pretty much. At
but he's
least,
iconic.
yeah,
I
he's
mean, like, he's
iconic, and at
great.
least he's fun because they, just not going to talk about Rocky Four much, but compared to the villain in Rocky Four, I'd say Clever Lang is a lot more. I'm not gonna say like memorable, but he has a lot more lines, obviously.
Yeah, I
And
mean, like,
I
he
had a lot
says,
more
like,
fun with him than I did with
yeah,
Rocky Four, the villain in that.
yeah, he says the famous, like, "I pity the fool." I think
Yeah,
that's where this spawned
that is where
from.
this comes from. Yes,
Yeah. Um,
which is pretty
so yeah, he
crazy.
so yeah, he's a fun character. Like, it's definitely like a villain that you're really supposed to hate
Yeah,
because he,
pretty
like,
much.
makes advances at, like, Adrian and stuff like that. It's like, okay. He's
Yeah,
like a creep.
pretty much. Yeah, it's not like with Apollo where you're just kind of supposed to hate him because like
Yeah.
Apollo, especially in the first one, is not the villain. And
He's an antagonist, but not a
yes, and
villain.
in the
Yeah.
second one, you could argue he's a little bit more antagonistic, but like you understand his reasoning for it.
Yeah.
With Lang, it's like Clever Lang, we have no backstory to him, why he's like this. He's just over the top for over the top's sake.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's nowhere near as good as like a antagonist per se as like Apollo. Um, but he's still fun at the end of the day. I still liked the scenes with him overall. But yeah, they obviously could have given him a little bit more backstory, made him feel more like a person instead of just cartoonishy villain. But this is what we got, and I do enjoy what's there. But it could have been a little bit more like the first two, and I think it would have been stronger. But we did not get that in this.
Yeah. I did read again. I don't know how like accurate IMDb trivia is, but it does feel this way to me. But like, I think it said that Sylvester Stallone basically after the first two movies he ran out of ideas. He said,
Yeah, I
and
can
like
see. Yeah,
that's
because
why
like
this one
where do you go when you
focuses.
get to the top?
Yeah, and it's like this one focuses more on the training and the fighting a lot. Which I
Yeah,
mean the other two movies did as well, but again, more character driven. Um,
yeah. I do think we still get some really like solid character moments in this movie. Not as
yeah,
much as like the first two, but obviously the stuff with Mick and everything. And I could see the challenge of like not knowing where to go with this because now Rocky's the champ. Like, where do you go? You really have nowhere to go but bottom when you're at the top. Um, but I do like that we're told earlier in the film before Mick dies that like all the titles Rocky has participated in and defended, like Mick kind of made them like easier challenges. Like
yeah,
they didn't get like the most, they're like the best challengers per se. So Rocky kind of like doubts himself at one point in this movie. He kind of loses that fire because he thought he was like this great champion and everything. He beats Apollo, and then he's able to defend his titles, and then he finds out that Mick was just kind of protecting him, like that he didn't earn those titles. Like, he didn't make me fight the best people. Um, so he loses a little bit of faith in himself. So because again, when you're like at the top, you kind of have to bring him back down because where else do
yeah,
you go? And we get this really, really good scene with him and Adrian on the beach where Rocky's been training with Apollo, and you can just see that Rocky doesn't have like the fire, the eye of the tiger, as Apollo is saying, to kind of win and do this anymore, because of like this new doubt that he has. And I really like the scene with him and Adrian where he admits that like he's afraid for the first time and he doesn't believe in himself anymore. And I just really like the conversation that they had where Adrian's kind of like, you got to do this like for yourself, or you're not gonna be able to like live with yourself. At least like go and give this your all, and if you lose, then at least like you can say that you gave it your all, and you can live with that. So yeah, really, really good scene between the two. I don't know how you feel about that scene, but I really like that scene.
yeah. I like that scene a lot too. Like the performances from like Stallone and Talia Shire were like really good. Uh, yeah, I thought like I definitely do agree that like there are these great character moments. And I think the movie for me gets better as it goes because like
Yeah,
the beginning is like a little too over the top and a little too silly, but that is
yeah,
kind of like the arc of the movie, you
yeah,
know. So like it makes sense at least.
yeah. I think I definitely agree that it gets a little bit less over the top, like kind of the latter part.
Yeah.
It starts feeling a little bit more like the first two, but not like completely, but a bit. Um, I do want to mention this about like we're going. This is going back to the very beginning, but it's just one of those things where I wasn't sure where they were going to be going with this movie, but the beginning, like it kind of like starts out with Polly being like
Oh yeah,
having this like kind of grudge against Rocky, I guess, like he's jealous of him or something. And then like he
pretty
has this
much.
confrontation, um, where he's just kind of ungrateful, like, oh, you should have given me this, and you should have given me that, and it's like, okay, we can have like this character arc here with Polly, and then it kind of just ends with him like asking for a job, and then it's like, okay, that's done.
Yeah, that was really weird.
It's
Like
weird, yeah, it's weird.
there's also I don't know. I mean, I don't know how I feel about this. There's like a part where they go to a different gym and Paulie is basically shown to be pretty racist where
Yeah,
he like doesn't want to interact because it's
well,
like
like
mostly black
people.
people. And it's like Paulie is like, "Oh, I don't want to be around these guys." It's like, "Whoa, okay." It's like, "Okay, I don't know why that's even there." It's so weird. Like,
I mean, I get
I don't
it's
know.
it's not really surprising given like
It's
what
not
kind of a person
surprising.
Polly is. I do
Yeah.
like what Rocky says is like, well, maybe they don't like you either. What I do to them? Yeah, it is kind of like weird, but I do think that interaction's like a little bit funny. Just kind of like Rocky throwing that back at him, like, well, maybe they don't like you.
It it does at least fit the character, but at the same time, I am kinda like, "Why is Polly in this movie?"
Yeah,
Like,
pretty
as
much.
even just that first scene, like you said, where he like
Yeah, you
he
think that it's
throws,
gonna be
like, the
like,
yeah, he's, like, drunk and he, like, throws his bottle at, like, a pinball machine, that, like, Rocky is on, like a Rocky pinball
yeah,
machine,
yeah. It
and it's
seems
like,
like he's
"What is
jealous.
the" Yeah, I don't know, it's always, like with these movies, it's always, again, like, fun t for me to, like, figure out how Stallone kind of felt in his career at the
Mm,
time, and this obviously feels like he's at the top of his, like, career at this point, and I think this is in a way him trying to, like, humble himself or, like, try to remember, like, his roots in a way. I don't know, does that, like, make sense
yeah,
at all?
I could see that.
And I kinda felt like maybe maybe just, like, the frustration of trying to write another movie. Like, I almost, like, symbolically see that scene where, like, Paulie throws the bottle at the Rocky pinball machine as, like, Stallone just being kinda tired of seeing Rocky all the time or
Yeah,
being, like, only known for Rocky. I
that's
don't
an
know.
interesting take.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. That's like it very well could be, just because it really doesn't like come back or anything. It's like I don't think he knew what to do with Polly anymore. It almost
Yeah.
seems like he just because
I mean,
again,
it
it's like
doesn't
it.
feel like he knew what to do with most of the characters. Like, Mickey
Yeah,
dying makes enough sense, at least.
yeah,
He's old and, like, okay. And again, Apollo, like, I think is a very natural progression for that
yes,
character.
yeah, I
I think
agree.
that works really well.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's like, yeah, Adrian's kind of there. Like, Paulie's
pretty
kind of
much.
there.
Yeah, I mean, at least like Adrian's there to give him the speech he needs. That's
Yes.
usually like a lot of times her role. She gives him the speech he kind of needs to kind of push it till the end. So like she does at least it feels like has a role and like something to do there, even if it's just that. Polly just I think you could just kind of cut him completely and really not miss anything from this movie.
Yeah.
But Polly's Polly. I don't sweat
Yeah.
you. I'm gonna say that to people now. He says that to everybody. That's like, dude, stop saying you're gonna. I don't sweat you to like everybody. Any of these people could just knock you out. Stop saying that. I don't sweat you. Pretty funny though. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because
Yeah, I
again,
wanted to
like
bring up that first scene
watching
too,
it the
because
first
like,
time, it's like, oh, are they gonna like have this? Like, what are they gonna? Are they gonna do like this arc with Polly or something? And just like, no, it kind of just goes nowhere. So
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I know that like Rocky 4 was heavily kind of I don't know. Um I don't know if it was like there were scenes that they just didn't put in or whatever. But I mean, the recut is sort of like Stallone going back and trying to make it more serious.
hmm.
Like
I'm very interested
the
in the
first
recut. But
I am too. I don't know if I'll like it as much because the appeal of Rocky 4 to me is kind of like the over the topness. And it's weird that I feel more okay with the over the topness in 4 than I do in this one for some reason. I don't know why, but we'll get to that.
yeah, we'll get
Um
to that.
uh but yeah, I what was I saying? With Rocky 3. Um I mean it is like written and directed by Stallone again. Uh and yeah, I don't know. It feels very 80s.
That
It
it
is like
does.
yeah.
Very over the
I
top
mean like
80s.
even the
It's
part
a
where
product of its time.
yeah, even the part where Polly is in the arcade, it's like yeah,
Hmm.
there's all these video games and stuff.
Yeah, how
It
it
feels
used to
like
be.
a lot of excess in a way, American excess, and especially in 4 as well. I keep mentioning 4 because these 2 like are really in my mind together in a way.
Mm-hmm. I can see
Um,
why.
yeah, but I still really enjoy this movie like enough. I I guess I just wish I enjoyed it more because like 4
Mhm.
I sorry 2 is so strong
Two's
like
great.
for a sequel and like I want every Rocky movie to be like a slam dunk, or knockout, whatever boxing
Hmm.
term.
There you go. Knockout would be it. There you go.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I especially like after how strong the first two, I can definitely see that. Um, would have been hard to do that with six movies. Not that there had to be six movies. This could
oh
this
yeah, like
I think we discussed was it probably in the last one, second one, where this could have just ended with one and been fine. It didn't need to
oh
continue.
yeah. Yeah, it
Um,
could have ended with 2, like, didn't feel
yeah,
at
two would
least
like I said, two is definitely a better ending than three if it had
yeah,
like and it had, had to pick a movie for its ending. Um,
at least Adrian is there at the fight this time.
yeah, no scheduling
Can I
issues this
say
time, I
that?
guess.
Yeah, I didn't confirm or anything if that was the case with 2. Did we confirm that
I
with
don't
2
remember
that,
if I
like,
don't remember if we confirmed it, but it's like it makes
I
the
feel like
most
it
sense
had to have been.
because like
Yeah.
why wouldn't she be? You know.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Trying to think of more things to say about 3. Because I did just watch it today, so like I feel like I
Hmm.
should talk more about it.
I
Oh, oh, well, you go ahead.
oh I was just gonna say like if you want to talk about like the actual fight between like the second round between Clubber Lang and Rocky, to talk about that.
Yeah, this is the only fight so far that goes through every round, right? The second fight, I mean.
Did it go through every round? I don't remember them like saying which round they are. I thought there was
I
only
thought
like
I
a
read that
couple
on
rounds.
the I think I read that on the IMDb trivia, but again, I'm not sure
I
how
don't.
accurate it is.
Well, the first two they went through all 15 rounds.
Right, but I mean like without kind of like cutting between
Uh,
things or like skipping rounds.
oh,
I really don't remember.
I didn't feel like the fight was long enough for it to go through all the rounds with not skipping anything. I could be wrong. I don't remember. I don't.
I don't know.
I don't remember it going to 15 rounds because I know like one of the things they were telling them is like he Clubber Lang like never would go 15 rounds with anyone, so like that was kind of like part of Rocky's strategy. I think was like to wear him down because like Clubber Lang usually seemed like he
Oh,
took
okay. Maybe it was just
boxers
like
out.
maybe it was just that it didn't skip any rounds of the fight.
I
I
think
don't know.
I think it didn't skip any rounds. I could
Yeah.
be wrong. I because I don't remember what round it is when Rocky wins, but I don't think they go all 15 rounds. I think they go like maybe 4 or 5. I could be wrong
Okay.
though.
Yeah,
I
I mean
remember it
the
being like
first
only a
fight
couple
between
rounds.
the first fight is like 2 rounds.
Yeah, that one's Rocky loses pretty quick the first time.
Yeah, which I don't know. I'm surprised they don't see like comments like saying that's like a disgrace to the character or something like that.
Yeah,
Um
I guess because
but I
it's
think
very
it makes sense.
justifiable why he'd lose
Yeah.
so quickly. His mind was not in it, and like he
Yeah.
didn't have that like hunger yet. So like especially a combination between the two of Mickey basically he's so worried about Mickey and that it's not too surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Oh,
the fights themselves. Like it seems like every movie
they
the
get a
like
little better.
we get like a little bit better, like the way they shoot them and all that. Um,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Just like especially like the first. I think I said this in the second review, and maybe even like the first review when we talked about it. But I can see a couple times in like the first, in the fight in the first one with Apollo and Rocky, where it's like, yeah, you can see their punches like not connecting.
Yeah.
Not so much like in this one. If they do, then I didn't notice. What about you?
I didn't really notice. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the way they're shot, they kind of get better with every movie, which makes sense. Like you get, I think, more practice, more experience directing these type of fights. You get better at them, I assume.
Yeah.
So like the fight itself, like is pretty cool, and I like the Rocky kind of tries the strategy of like wearing him down the first couple of rounds and kind of taunting him throughout the match, like "Come on, hit me."
Yeah.
That was pretty fun, pretty satisfying when he wins the fight too. So the fight itself, it never feels like there's like a whole lot to talk about with the fights because they're usually at the end they're only like 10, 15 minutes ish. So like they're relatively like small part of the movie almost, but I'm usually always like pretty entertained during the actual boxing fights themselves. A lot of times
Yeah.
like I can't be the only one. I'm sure people do this when they watch Rocky. You're kind of like doing this along with Rocky, especially like when you want him to beat whoever he's fighting. So
Yeah.
I catch myself like doing this along with him. I can't be
Yeah.
the only one. Definitely not the only one. So yeah, the fights themselves are pretty entertaining.
Yeah. The thing I wanted to mention, I don't. This is another thing that just like the beginning of this movie really does feel like an overload of just like why is that, like, again, like just showing like a bunch of Rocky memorabilia is like, it's like, oh, okay, it makes sense at least. Like the whole thing with Polly is weird in the
Yeah,
beginning. It's like, what? Okay, that went nowhere.
nowhere. Pretty much.
Uh,
Yeah,
and then like the whole Hulk Hogan fight is just like so over the top
so
and
over the top.
ridiculous. It's like, why doesn't anyone stop this man?
I
It
don't
doesn't
know.
seem like
People
anyone
are
is in on this.
people are trying to like the security's like trying to stop him, and he's just
Yeah,
like
and they
throwing
just,
them off.
and he's like, no
Yeah,
repercussions.
pretty much. God, that's such a
I would
fun
love
scene though.
I would love if that character like came back in the series,
That would be
just like
yeah.
as like a small like,
Underlips. That's the
yeah, as
character
a
he
small
played.
side character that just like slowly befriends Rocky or something.
That would be
That'd be
pretty
kind of
funny.
funny.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I don't know how I feel about this. This is always weird to me when this happens in movies, but there's a part where they Rocky is like getting a statue in front of the Philadelphia steps, which I guess that statue like really
I think that's
does
really there.
exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's either there or they moved it. I can't
Yeah. But it does
remember.
exist.
Yeah, because I think they show it in Creed 2,
Mm,
if I'm remembering correctly.
mm.
And I think it was just made for the movie. I think, because
Makes
I
sense.
read something on IMDb that said like Stallone tried to donate it to like the Philadelphia Museum or something, and they were like, "Nah, this isn't. This is just a movie prop. It's not art." It's like it's a statue.
It's a
Like
statue.
what?
So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, come on, like Rocky's Philadelphia. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Uh, but like the part where where they unveil the statue, there's like a high school band there, and I swear to God, on the drums of the first kid that you see, like on the drums, I swear to God, it says Mr. T. I
Oh,
don't
does it?
know if I'm crazy or not, but I swear it looks like it says Mr. T.
That's
But
funny.
then they're playing the Rocky theme, like they're playing "Gonna Fly."
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. I never know how to feel about like characters in the movie knowing the theme of the movie. You know what I
Mm.
mean? It's always weird to me.
Yeah.
Like, wait, did
I definitely get what you mean.
it just like breaks me a bit too much. It's like too much of a fourth wall break for me. I don't know why. It always is like weirdly bothersome for me.
Mm. It usually doesn't really bother me. I can think of like a couple like anime where um I won't go with like too off tangent, but like in Death Note, I think like Misa has a ringtone that's like the Death Note opening. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's like her cell phone ringtone is like the Death Note opening.
That's
So like I've
weird.
seen
I
like a couple
didn't know
things do
that.
that. It doesn't really bother me usually, but it is like kind of funny because it's like that's the like where does that come from in universe then?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Um, yeah, it's always just like a fun little Easter egg type of thing to me. So it doesn't really bother me, but I could see how it's like this doesn't make sense. Like how it could bother like some people, but that's
Yeah.
funny. It doesn't usually bother me, but that's pretty funny.
And then they actually do play Gonna Fly, of course, during the training montage. That
Yeah.
song always like just makes me feel like pumped up, you know?
Oh yeah.
It's always inspiring.
Sing it for us. Go ahead, sing it right now.
No,
Oh,
we'll get copyrighted or
okay.
whatever.
Yeah, you're right. It's YouTube.
And I don't want to sing it.
Coward. But yeah.
It's a great song though. I don't even know if that song was up for like best original song at the
Should be.
Oscars. Maybe it
It
was.
should
I don't
be.
remember. I think I didn't I read this on the trivia, but I didn't notice it in the movie. But I guess when they show all the clips of like Stallone, like all these magazines and stuff and all that, I guess they show a clip of Stallone at the Academy Awards for the first Rocky. I'm like, oh, it's kind of cute, use that kind of stuff in the movie. Um, I'm okay with that kind of stuff. Some reason the theme song being in universe is weird to me. It's like, I guess like I mean like wrestlers get like songs, but boxers, I don't know.
Probably not.
Maybe they do. It doesn't feel like a very boxery thing. I don't know. Like wrestlers, it makes sense. They're like showmen, you know. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. That's like one thing that always like I'm always like, huh?
It's
When
funny.
it comes up. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what else to say about the movie, and I feel like I've said most of everything I wanted to say. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm good. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I think I talked about all the things uh that are worth like talking about for the most part. I like how the movie ends a lot. If we want to talk
Yes.
about that with because we do get a little bit of a tease of Apollo saying to Rocky that he's like after this match you're gonna owe me something. And I think it's not that hard to figure out like he wants to box Rocky again. But I like
Yeah.
that they have just like this kind of one-on-one fight with just themselves. And then I think them,
Yeah.
charging each other, the slow motion shot playing Eye of the Tiger is like a pretty iconic scene.
Yeah, and then it like transitions into like the painting.
Yeah.
That's really
So
cool. I
yeah.
like that. It's so funny though. I don't know if it was like this for you too, but there was like a Family Guy episode that
Yes.
basically ended
Cle-
the same way.
yeah,
And that
Cleveland
was
and
my
Fight
like
that
and
introduction to
then when I
that,
saw
like, what
Rocky
is
3
that
finally,
supposed wait a
I was like,
minute.
"Wait,
Yeah.
wait, that's what
Yes.
they were parodying?"
Yes. Yeah, because I saw that obviously seen Family Guy before seeing Rocky
Yeah.
3. So I was like, ah, that's where it comes from. Cool.
Yeah. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I think like Cleveland does the ding
Yeah.
ding,
Of
something like
course they
that.
have Cleveland be Apollo.
Yeah. There was also I don't know. There was like just some fun scenes with like Apollo uh and Duke and them watching like Clubber
Yeah.
Lang, and Apollo just like really wants this guy to get his ass kicked, which is it's like yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. There's a lot of like fun parts like that in the movie. Like other
Yeah,
like
this
just like
movie
some
definitely.
fun conversations. Because one thing I've always liked is just like I don't know if they're not like quips, but I don't know what you would call them, but just like conversations, like quick conversations that like Rocky or Mick or Rocky and Apollo have. Like in the second one, um, it's when he's coming out in like his golden robe and he's just like kind of commenting like this is nice, this is better than last one's. And
Yeah,
it's just like little things like that I like. And we had like a couple of those in this one too, where I think Rocky says like what are you gonna do if you win this match or something? It's like says like to Mick or something like like go to the circus or something like that. Just like silly, like kind of throwaway lines. But I always thought those lines like really help kind of ground the characters to me. I don't know
Yeah.
about you. It's just those little moments. One part I like too is when Rocky and Mick are kind of having their disagreement about fighting Clever Lang to begin with, and Rocky says like, if you don't, I'm gonna tell people that you haven't bought a new pair of underwear in 10 years. It's just like, yeah, you would tell people that, wouldn't you? I don't just like little things like that. It just makes these characters feel like so much more human to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Makes them endearing.
yes, which okay, we'll talk about this when we talk about Rocky Four, but I thought that was severely lacking in Rocky Four, at least for
Yeah,
me.
it definitely lacks in 3 compared to the first 2.
Yeah, it's still
But
there
yeah,
in
like
three.
4 is like literally like I don't know. It's like a I don't know. I keep calling like Rocky like a myth, but I'm like I mean that more in like a almost like a Greek myth,
Yeah.
Like here's this character in a way that like uh is like at the top of the world and they have to go through some kind of like allegorical kind of like story.
Hmm.
But they're not really characters when you talk about them that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, like Rocky 4 really is that.
Mm,
And it's
yeah.
it's Rocky 4. We'll
We'll
talk about
we'll
it.
talk about that. I think that's probably like one of the things we've said most of this review is like we'll get to Rocky Four. We'll get to Rocky Four.
Yeah. Uh it's it's yeah. Uh yeah, I don't know. What anything else to say about Rocky 3?
No, I think that's pretty much all that I would want to mention about it.
Yeah. Um yeah, I
I
guess
really
let's
enjoyed the movie, if you couldn't tell. I have a lot of fun with it.
I enjoy it. Yeah, I mean I've said my thoughts on it. And I'll give my rating first. Uh excuse me. Um I I'm gonna give it a 3. I think it's a
I
good
think that's fair.
movie
I think that's a good.
overall.
Yeah.
Um and I think like even just Eye of the Tiger being in the movie, like spawning from this movie is kind of like amazing.
Yeah.
Um
The
it gets a
several
lot of
things
points
that
for
kind of
me.
spawned from this movie are amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's like weird to think about.
Yeah, it really is.
Because like again, when you're a kid, you like hear about Rocky, like if you haven't seen Rocky, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, boxer guy. Okay, yeah, yeah. I know
Sylvester
like the
Stallone.
songs
Everyone
from it.
everyone knows like Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, I know like man, it's weird. I think like Family Guy really introduced me to Rocky because there's like the part where Brian is training, and it's just the Rocky 4 montage in Russia,
Mhm.
like, and
Yeah.
it's like plays the same song and everything. And like that's like how I was introduced to a lot of that stuff. But like, yeah, I don't know. It's like you don't really realize how important Rocky is when you're a
Hmm.
kid,
Yeah.
but he
I
is like
agree.
an icon.
Yeah. Very much
Yeah, and
so.
then like when you see the films when you're an adult, it's like, oh wow, these are
I
really
can I can
the
see
first two at
why.
least.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I'd give Rocky 3 a 3 out of 5.
I think that's a
Um,
I think it's a fair rating.
yeah, I think it's closer to a 2.5, but I don't know. I really don't feel like it's just like an average movie.
Mm,
Like it is. I mean, even just parts here and there are still like so good. Again, like a lot of good performances, like the scene with Adrian and Rocky on the beach, and like Adrian and Mick, or sorry, Rocky and Mickey, like when Mickey dies. Um, Carl Weathers is like really good in this. Um, yeah, songs, music are great. Yeah, it's like it's a good movie. I just wish I liked it as much as like 2.
mm.
I think that's
Yeah, that's
sort
fair.
of where I fall.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Okay, so I guess for me then, I'm gonna give it a 3.5. Actually,
that sounds about right.
I really enjoy this movie. I definitely fully agree with like the criticisms that you and probably like some other people have, like the tonal shift and everything. It's not as good as the first two, for sure. First one's like a 5. I think we both Did you give the second one a 4.5 or 4? I forget.
I gave it a 4.
Okay, I think I gave it a 4.5. I'm pretty sure.
I think so.
I think I did. So yeah, it's not as good as the first two, but I still like have a lot of fun watching this movie. Like I said, I enjoyed it a lot the first time. I was like, man, this was a fun movie, and then second time, just as fun because I think I'm engaged throughout like this whole movie. I think it's also a little bit better paced. I think than the second one, certain points. I think that's fair to say, and I
I'll
just think
say,
it's
well, it's better paced, but I do like to
oh
hear
yeah,
just the meandering,
yeah. No, I
just
agree,
because it
fully
is like
agree.
those characters, you know?
Agree. No, fully agree. Is like I'm fine with the meandering stuff. I'm just saying like I think this one's probably a little bit better paced. There's not as much kind of like meandering, but I'm fully entertained like throughout this whole movie. I just have a blast watching it, and even though we have like this really over the top stuff like with Hulk Hogan, which you could completely cut from the movie, it's still like a lot of fun. Like that whole thing
Yeah.
is just so entertaining. Um, and yeah, just like a lot of the great moments that we talked about, Mick's death and everything with Apollo, the scene with Rocky and Adrian, just so much like good stuff about it. I think, but yeah, I think it'd been stronger if it had like they kind of toned it down a little bit, fleshed out Clubber Lang a little bit more, made him not so over the top, made him an actual character. Um,
Yeah.
things like it could have been better, but for what we got, I find it very entertaining, and I think anytime I watch Rocky one, like I'll feel like I gotta watch Rocky two, and then it's like Rocky three is fun, so I'll probably like watch Rocky three, like if I watch the other two, just because it's just a really fun movie for me. So yeah, I'm giving it a 3.5. I really enjoy this movie. I have a lot of
All
fun with
right.
it. So 3.5 for me.
All right. Well, I guess next week, we're gonna take a little break from Rocky and be- uh and we're gonna watch a movie that's coming out on Shutter in a few days. It was out in theaters and I saw it in theaters and I really liked it. And I want to discuss it because I don't know. I feel like it's one of those movies where there's stuff to discuss about it. And it's called Skinamarink. Uh yeah, check it out on Shutter. It's a it's an experimental horror movie. It's a slow burn type of movie. Uh it's a very unusual experience, but I really enjoyed it and I'm excited to talk about it. So we'll do that and then I don't know when we'll talk about Rocky 4. I was debating, what do you think about this? What do you think about doing Rocky 4 like after like a couple weeks after we do Skinamarink and then we do the Rocky would it be a couple weeks? Yeah. And then after a couple weeks after that we do the Rocky 4 recut as a
Uh,
separate thing.
I'd be fun. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Because I'm very curious about the recut.
Yeah. Uh yeah, I don't know if it's like available anywhere. It might be on HBO Max. I'm not sure, but maybe we can like get together and watch it
Hmm.
together. Um, so yeah, I think that'll be fun because I was like, I want to talk about the recut, but I almost feel like it maybe deserves its own kind of discussion. So yeah, well, so yeah, next week is Skinamarink, and then a couple weeks after that is Rocky 4. A couple weeks after that, the Rocky 4, Rocky versus Drago or whatever it's called, the Rocky 4 recut. Um, so yeah, that's the schedule. So we'll see you next time for Skinamarink. And that's it for this week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.